What up, Radio World?
My name is Quincy.
And this is my show, the Talk2Q radio show. It's almost like posting a blog, except I'm doing it live.
What's going on, people? All right. I want to welcome all of you to another special Q on One podcast edition of the Talk2Q radio show. My name is Quincy, and this is my show. And without further ado, I will go ahead and get to my guest. She is not a stranger to the show. Most of you will recognize her voice. From the Motor City of Detroit, I want to welcome author, show legend, and show hostess, Crystal Hickerson, to the Talk2Q radio show. Chris, what's going on?
Hey, Q, how are you?
I am outstanding. So, I appreciate you taking the time to do the show. I wanted to bring you on to discuss one of your 4 novels. Most people are happy with just one book, but you decide to go through this 4 times.
Still going.
Okay. So, but just I'm talking about, I think it's your newest that you have, The Volunteer.
Yes.
And just to give everyone a little background on it, The Volunteer follows a character named Jenna Steele, is a woman whose mom died on hospice. And so she decided she wanted to give back, donate it to a local hospice, and that wasn't enough, so she decided to volunteer, and that's where things kind of start. So this book kind of discusses, I guess, what it's like to volunteer in a hospice, gives you some behind-the-scenes look, and let's see what the real world of hospice is like, I guess. So can you explain to people, I guess, how this book came to be? What made you decide to give people a behind-the-scene look at what goes on in a hospice?
Well, Q, many reasons, actually. I've, of course, worked in hospice for over 17 years now. And what actually got this particular book going is this book is actually based kind of on a real relationship between a volunteer and her patient. And as I was, as the volunteer coordinator or volunteer manager at that time at a hospice, she would come to me and talk about this particular patient who had ALS. And their relationship had grown past just, someone coming to sit with her and a companion with her, which is what volunteers do in hospice. So I was always, very pleased to hear her story, the volunteer's story, each time she would report about her. And the relationship was amazing, and it was really beautiful. And I put a picture of them in the back of the book and dedicated the book to them. And there's even a passage that the real volunteer actually writes about in the book at the end.
Wow.
The story itself was inspired by them, but it wasn't, it's not based on them per se, but the inspiration came from how they built such a beautiful relationship together that was really needed, especially for the young woman. And she was only, around 55 when she died. So it was a great relationship for her, and she had been estranged from her family. And so watching this on the outside made me think, this could be a story. I mean, this could be something that should be told or can be told in a fictional way. I've seen lots of books written non-fictional based about volunteering of all kinds, about hospice. I haven't seen many written about on a fictional level. So I decided, well, hey, I'm a writer, so why not write it? So I did.
Okay, and like you said, this is something that you've lived for, over 15 years, I guess you've been in hospice?
Yes, and going, still in hospice now.
And so how did you get started in that profession?
Well, I am a social worker by trade. And when I began after college, began my search for work and all of that kind of stuff, I, I started working at a funeral home. And because of my background, I started helping out with some of the families who were coming to see their loved one, for the first time. Doing their first viewings. And also assisting with some of the families that were not able to, go through the whole process of doing their appointment with, our director, and a funeral director. So through that experience, as I was going on, and actually my job at that time was office manager,
Okay.
But just through my experience there, when I was continually looking for work in my field, I saw bereavement coordinator, which is where a counselor would counsel people who have lost their loved one through hospice, and work on programs and things like that, and run the grief support department. And so I applied for that, and that's how I got into hospice. I didn't know what hospice was. I had no clue. I just knew that, well, it's grief support. I think that that's something that I would be interested in from my own experiences with death and the professional experiences, and of course, in my degree. So I said, okay, I think I could do this. So I kind of fell into it, really. And then once I started working in hospice, I really felt this was really kind of my niche in life, or one of my niches, to be with people at the end of life and to be there for others who are left behind.
Okay. And I get that. And I feel like I don't know how many people seek that out, or I mean, and you can maybe say this from your own experience. Maybe I should ask the question: do people seek this type of work out, or does it kind of find them?
I think some people do seek it out. When I started in hospice, a lot of the nurses and physicians, they kind of ended their career in hospice because it was such a, it wasn't something that you, as a nurse, as a new nurse, you would come into and go, oh, okay, I want to do hospice. Usually it was for people who had been working for a long time. They have lots of experience, and so they've decided, this is where I want to finally go. I feel finally I have the maturity, the experience now to do hospice. And as hospice has grown over the years, and has, of course, seeped into the medical society where they know this is something I can do, then there are new nurses and people who come on to hospice saying, as staff members, this is what I want to do. I want to be a part of hospice. So more people are, because they know more about it now, that it's something you can do in a medical career and be a part of it. But it's not for everybody. And a lot of new nurses learn this, and new staff members. Is not for everybody. But it's really rewarding for people as volunteers. The people who come to volunteer, a lot of them are students in the medical field. They're, physicians, residents, new students, or nursing students, but a lot of it, mainly physicians. They want to come and they want to learn more about this field so they can be better for their patients. We get a lot of those students, and we also get a lot of people who have had an experience. They have lost someone, and hospice came in to help them during the last part of their loved one's life, and they decide, I want to give back. I want to be here for someone just like someone was there for me.
Okay. And just the job itself can be, just in my personal opinion, from the outside looking in, can be emotionally draining, because you're not only dealing with certain patients, but you're also, I guess, mainly dealing with their family. And I can only imagine what certain families go through because everyone handles just the thought of someone dying differently. And so managing the family and their emotions, is that something that you may have learned through your sociology degree, or is that something that you just have to have in you?
No, I think it can be, taught. I mean, there are things, of course, getting your degree in sociology, social work, counseling, it would help on a social work level. In hospice, there's many different disciplines. There's nurses, of course, there's physicians. Usually there are people who have, physicians who have gone on and they've studied more about palliative care, things like that. But I think you do have to have a certain level of compassion and desire. It is like a calling. You will hear that many people in hospice who've been there a long time have said, this was a calling for me. It's not just something that I do, but it's who I am. And I think that after a while, it has to be that, or you couldn't do it every day. So yeah, having, those degrees in order to get those positions is important. But mainly it's about who you are inside, your own soul. It's a very spiritual thing.
I can understand for that for sure. I would imagine that would definitely be the case as far as it being something more spiritual than anything. But okay, so let's return to the book and Jenna, the main character from the book. And okay, so things kind of start off with, her mom is dying, cancer.
Yes.
Okay. And she has to watch them pull the plug, while she's holding her mom's hand or her mom takes her last breath. Mm-hmm. The character Jenna, when I think about this, because I've been through two situations where, like hospice type situations in my personal life, so I can kind of relate. But it's not like I never had to pull a plug or anything of that nature. Mm-hmm. Is that like the most, I guess, extreme way to kind of start the story? Because when you look at that, it's like, wow, you're starting off like, chapter 1, this lady's pulling the plug on her mom.
Well, it had to, because the story is about Jenna, and so it is about how did she get where she was, sitting in the parking lot, wondering what to do. So I had to, let the reader know who she is and where she's coming from and where she's been emotionally to bring her to this place, which is actually a journey that many of the volunteers, as I was saying before, they've just been through this. A few years have passed, from their experience, and then they decide, I want to do something.
Right.
But of course, it always stays with you. And I wanted the reader to understand that, death is real, and death is very real for her, and why she's doing what she's doing, why she's picking up and doing this journey that she really didn't have to do. I mean, none of us have to do any type of volunteering, but why this? Why would I do this? Why do I need to do this? So I wanted them to understand, why she's doing what she's doing.
Okay, so as far as the why, we've already discussed some of the lows, from my opinion, as far as just dealing with the families and the emotions they go through. What are some of the joys that Jenna may have gotten out of volunteering for hospice?
Well, as you read the story, you're the main joy that she learns is the relationship between her and Sam, the character who is dying of ALS. When they meet, they have a kinship and a bond, and they build a really wonderful relationship, and that travels with the two of them. And plus, we also discuss in the book, the other patients that she encounters and things like that. But the joy you get from being with someone, first of all, I think it's such a privilege to be with someone who's dying, because they're letting you into the most personal part of their life. You are getting a joy of such a warmth of just being alive with this person. What we call it in hospice a lot of times is we call it human presence, something that we don't really have a lot in our normal life. No one comes and just sits with us, when we're sad, when we're hurting, when we're sometimes even in the hospital, no one's there.
Yeah.
And you talked about, the caregiver as a family. I wanted to also put in there, even though with this particular patient, she had parents and everything, but I wanted to show the different kind of grief that they were going through. They were going through totally different types of grief and how they dealt with it. And a lot of times the caregivers are alone and no one is there to help them. And they are grieving and they're going through this overwhelming thing. And here you have all of these people in hospice, from the nurse, the physician, the home health aide who bathes them and everything. I mean, all these people coming to assist you, and the volunteer who would be there just for you. So it's a really big thing. Most of the volunteers I've always have said, I gain more than what I gave to them. And they gain, just the wonder of being with someone. The joy is really hard to explain. It's just like, it's asking someone, well, why do you like this person, or why do you love this person, or why in the heck do you do what you do? Well, you do it because it does enrich you. It enriches your life. And this is kind of what I wanted to show in the book, how you can build a beautiful friendship, a beautiful love with someone, even though it's only for maybe a few months or a year that you're with them and then they die. But they still can enrich your life even after death, just by knowing them.
Yeah. Okay, that's pretty cool. And I think that a novel like this really can enlighten people about what goes on, because for me, I was only there because I had to be there to, for family.
Sure.
And so you don't really get to see the other side. I mean, the people come and go, but you really don't notice it because there's so much going on, I guess. Now, I didn't have too many people who really talked to me or anything outside of doctors. So I'm not exactly sure if what I went through is on the level of what Jenna does for people in the book. I would think not, just based on what you're telling me.
And you know what? Not to cut you off, but a lot of cancer groups in the hospital are adopting the hospice model now. They're seeing the benefit of having an interdisciplinary team to take care of cancer patients, and not just the ones who are dying, but all, because you go through such an enormous journey, a roller coaster. But so they are realizing that this is something that's beneficial. So not only do I need a physician, my oncologist, or not only do I need, a nurse to help me when, I'm on chemo, but I need someone to talk to. I need, maybe I need a spiritual counselor. Maybe I need just someone to sit with me, and different things like that. So it is kind of catching on in other areas, and I think that's a wonderful thing. There's a center here, the Carmanis Cancer Center, and here in Detroit, And they are one of the ones who are really adopting that kind of idea. And I think it's catching on just generally because with anything, any kind of chronic disease, especially one that may end up being terminal, there are so many things that you need, and you don't even realize. The caregivers, they don't know what they need. They don't know what they want. The patient may not know what they need, but we do. We know that we can, if we can just be there for somebody, then that's huge. I mean, it's so huge. And not to get into my own cancer-related issues I had, and when I went through breast cancer, but I had people who were there for me, who just sat with me, and they didn't do anything. They were just with me while I was waiting on this or waiting on that. And it was huge. And at that moment, I realized how important it really was. I didn't even realize it myself, even though I've been around hospice and I've been around it, everything. But it's different when you're on the other side and someone is there for you. And it's an amazing feeling.
I think it does make a big difference. And, I remember when my mom was really sick and my father wouldn't leave. And I'm pretty sure just him being there meant the world to her, So you're right as far as even if it's someone who may not be family, but anyone that takes the time to talk to you or just sit with you, I can definitely see how it makes a huge difference. And, and it also reminds me of back when my late wife was getting treatment, chemotherapy.
Mm-hmm.
I remember this lady used to come through. She was just a volunteer, and she just came through with her dog.
Mm-hmm.
And
Yes.
I just remember how everyone was so distracted by the dog. Everybody wanted to pet the dog. It was like a Labrador Retriever or something. It was just a happy dog.
Mm-hmm.
And something as simple as that, made all the difference in the world for like 20 minutes.
Yes, many of those volunteers are pet therapy volunteers, and those dogs have gone through, they've been trained and they are certified. And they have a lot of those programs in hospitals, in hospice themselves as well, where these pets, they even have cats.
Really?
Yeah, they do. And so
How do you train a cat?
Well, you don't really train a cat. Cats actually, because they're warm and they come up to you, and they even have them in nursing homes. They're just there. There's pets,
Okay.
for the residents. But pets, especially dogs, they provide that kind of a comfort without having to speak. And see, that is really important. A lot of times when we go and we visit people and we want to be there for somebody, we always feel that we have to say something. We have to talk. We have to say this amazing prophetic thing, but you don't. I mean, I remember when I was going through chemo, I couldn't talk. Half the time I couldn't, get the words to come up. I was just too exhausted, and just ill. So sometimes those patients, when they are, at the brink of death, they can hear you, they can feel you, but it's hard for them to speak.
Yeah.
And sometimes it can be very frustrating for them to speak. So they don't, or they may need to keep their eyes closed. So they don't need that interaction. And I always tell volunteers when they come in, and the new volunteers, they go, okay, I want to meet this person, and I want to interact, I want to talk, and when I was like, okay, whoa. Person is dying, so they may not be very talkative. So I have to explain what it means to just be a human presence with someone. And but yeah, the dogs are amazing. I would say for anyone who has a dog that, it's a good dog, and they do have to go through things to be that type of a therapy dog.
Mm-hmm.
But it's really wonderful. I mean, yeah, it's just amazing.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty cool. So, all right, so The Volunteer, a novel by Crystal Hickerson. You can get it on Amazon, on the Kindle app, or you can get it in paperback, whichever you prefer. What other locations can they find this book and your others, Crystal?
Well, everyone can just go to crystalhickerson.com where they can find all of my books that are there, The Magician, Street Corners, Wanted, and The Volunteer. And their synopsis is there, the book trailers are there, so they can take a look at that, and they're all available, of course, on Amazon.
All right, sweet. And of course, I can't let you go without discussing the Crystal Show.
Okay.
Which is, my favorite show.
How sweet of you to say.
So I usually listen to it in the morning, after I get up and I'm shaving and everything, and I have it going on in the background. I enjoyed the interview you had just recently with, what's his name? William, was it James? The
William
author.
Turner? Yeah. William Turner, the author.
Yeah,
Yes.
the author of the murder mystery book.
Yeah.
I wish, the interview was very good, and a lot of the things that he discussed I thought were pretty interesting. And but as far as your show, it's like your show is back. It's not a live show right now. It's a podcast. How do you like the podcast angle of the show? And do you think it's something that you may continue for quite some time going forward?
Well, I will continue the podcast because I quite enjoy doing that. I started doing the podcast when we had have the live show. I did it on the weekends, for the music piece because I was getting so many new artists who wanted to come onto the show, and so I thought, well, God, we're kind of bombarding the Thursday talk show with all of these artists. I said, well, okay, let me just do a podcast, and I have them come on, and we'll interview them, and we'll play their music, and and we'll do that. And so they kind of got me into the whole podcast thing, and then doing some of the commentary that I just think of and go, you know what, I got to talk about this. So I just do a commentary. So I quite enjoy doing the podcast, although I really am excited and can't wait to get back doing the live show as well.
Yeah, the one thing, I love the podcast, by the way. I enjoy listening to it. The only thing that's hard for me is when I disagree with you, I have to yell at my phone.
I know, right?
Because I can't call in and say, wait a minute, Crystal, really?
And you know what's funny about that? I had done a podcast, and I can't remember which one it was, but I think it was a premiere show. I can't remember. But anyway, I had it on, and I did it live. Well, it was kind of live. And people were calling in. I was like, oh, this is podcast. It's not, we're not accepting phone calls. So, but I'm sure there were people who wanted to disagree with whatever I was saying at that moment. That's why they were calling in. So it's kind of funny. But yeah, that's the thing about the podcast as far as instead of being live. However, I do. I have a YouTube page. And I put the podcast on the YouTube page as well, so people can, post their comments there. If people would like to comment on any of the podcast shows, they can simply, email us at thecrystalshow1@gmail.com and, put in their comments there, or on Facebook. We have a Facebook group. So there's many ways that people can, interact with the show. And, but yeah, we can't wait to get back. Dre and I are just chomping at the bit.
Well, I'll be ready whenever you all decide to come back, so I can give my 2 cents and do all my talking like I normally do and go overboard and get long-winded.
Yeah, it's so funny. I love to hear you actually talk, because on your show you just say one-liners, and I'm like, okay. But you can't get a word in edgewise on your show because you have so many great callers.
So yeah, especially when Eminem's on. So
yeah, that's why I made him a feature on my show.
Yeah, he loves to hear himself talk.
Yes, he does.
All right. Well, I appreciate you taking the time to discuss the book, The Volunteer by Crystal Hickerson. Is on Amazon, and again, thanks for taking the time to do the show.
Thank
and
you.
As far as what I want to do, I definitely want to read this book. And I'm not sure exactly how would you categorize the book. I guess one last question.
This book is actually It's more of a romantic drama because there is a little bit of romance in the book, quite a bit, and also, of course, the friendship with her and the patient. But it's also a romantic side, and I've been asked, will it continue, because it kind of left it at the end where you could do another book if you wanted to. Like, well, I hadn't thought about it, but maybe. But yeah, so it's more of a romantic drama.
Okay.
Not too lifetimey, maybe not. I don't know. Q, you may read it and go, oh my God, this is too much romance. I can't take this. This is too girly. This is too girly.
It may be. If I start growing breasts by the 4th chapter, I'm going to stop reading it.
Too much emotion. No.
Yeah, I definitely want to get a copy of this book. And, well, let me ask you this. Can I get an autographed copy if I, just PayPal you or something, or?
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay.
I could just give you one if you wanted just an autographed copy. Yes.
And
I mean, it is you, Q.
And what I will do for my listeners out there, for those who have a Kindle, I will give away 5 copies of this book on Kindle.
Ooh.
For the people who want to email me at talk2qnow@gmail.com. The first 5 people, just hit me up, and I will make sure you get a Kindle copy of The Volunteer by Crystal Hickerson.
All right. Sounds good.
So.
And I want reviews.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I have to throw that stipulation in. You have to leave a review on Amazon and tell her what you think.
Yeah.
And tell her if you think it can be a Lifetime movie or not.
As it should be.
With Jenna Steele, even though she's a young woman, played by Meredith Baxter Burney, because she plays everybody on Lifetime.
No. Oh my gosh. No.
Better her than Fantasia.
Oh, see? No, we're not going to go there. I love Fantasia.
All right. Thanks a lot, Crystal. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
And that's going to do it for another special podcast edition of the Talk2Q radio show. You can listen to the show live every Tuesday and Wednesday night at 9 p.m. Eastern, where we'll discuss relationships, current events, politics, sports, and more. Follow me on Twitter at Talk2Q, or you can even friend me at ThankQ on Facebook. When all else fails, go to Talk2Q.com to get information on upcoming events and sign up for my email newsletter. Everyone have a great day. Peace out.
Are you tired of watching TV with the endless reality TV shows and the news, one life-threatening virus and terrorist group after the other? And who has time or the money to go to the movies nowadays? What with the 3D IMAXs and all of that, it's probably cheaper just to catch your favorite stars at their next concert. So what are you going to do? Spend more time with your screaming kids and nagging spouse? Who needs that headache? How about picking up a book, escaping into a world beyond your own? Take a visit over to crystalhickerson.com and check out one or all of her 4 novels that are ready to be downloaded for only 99 cents. Like a bit of intrigue and fantasy? Then read The Magician, full of twists, turns, and the good old fight between good and evil. Like a story more down to earth? Then check out Street Corners, a gritty, sexy crime novel about a man caught between being a pimp, a businessman, and caught in an ultra-sensuous love triangle. Yummy. Like the darker side of life? Then pick up Wanted, a tale of a woman who awakens from a coma after a violent home invasion that left her 11-year-old daughter dead. She tries to pick up the pieces, but there is someone, or better, something, that has awoken with her. This story is a dark thriller that borders on horror. Like a little more romance? Then read The Volunteer, a heartwarming story about a woman who decides to give back and volunteer with a hospice organization after caring for her dying mother. This yarn not only takes you into her world, but into a behind-the-scenes look at the world of hospice itself. Grab your heart and tissue for this one. Very, very romantic. 4 novels by one author, Crystal Hickerson. Find all of these novels on crystalhickerson.com, amazon.com, or anywhere books are sold.